Good morning. My name is Angela St. Julian, and I am the principal mediator and arbitrator with Yes Mediate LLC. Okay, I'm back today for part 2 of our discussion on conflict. So last week we talked a little bit about how easy it is for us to walk around, walk through life, I should say, with our everyday routines and our busyness, and be completely and totally unaware of the fact that we are at conflict or in conflict with other people or a person. Now, this can be something that's happening with you in your relationship, and I mean your personal relationship or your work relationships. Specifically, I'm talking about work right now, but all could be applied to any relationship. So we stopped last week with taking an assessment of our brains, our mind, and our body. Okay, first step. It's hard for people who are really busy and who are really just tuned in to their routine and their work to take a step back. But my hope is that after our talk last week, you have taken a step back, or you've shared this with someone who needed to take maybe a step back. And we've had a chance, all of us have had a chance to really assess what's going on in our mind, in our body. And specifically, I mentioned things like grinding our teeth, keeping our hands in a fist, having our bodies constantly like in a position of tension, being erect and stiff all the time, from tension. And tension is coming from somewhere. That's where we stopped, basically. Once you have finally figured out that you're dealing with these types of reactions, you then need to dive into the mind of this, into your mind, and start thinking about where this is coming from. Specifically, I mentioned walking into your job, into the office, and taking a look to your right or left, and seeing, Sharon sitting there and seeming to be upset or having some kind of an attitude with you. You might see this in her body language, and I mentioned rolling of the eyes or, maybe even a short greeting. Now that you have realized, now that you've woken up to this, the next step is for us to kind of discuss how to find out, if you don't already know, what the problem or conflict, I should say, actually is. Okay, now, I know that if we've been walking around busy in our routines and our day-to-day, that it's possible for us to just miss some of these engagements we're having and not really feeling the tone and the exchange that we've had. But if we give ourselves time to slow down and really think about what has happened, then we might be able to, touch on some points. You might remember that meeting you had last week where Sharon was in the conference room with you and she tried to speak on a matter that you interrupted her on, or that she tried to speak on a matter that you may have, instead of interrupting her, you may have just completely disregarded her feedback or her